What's up, guys? It's your boy, the essential John L. Crossfire, aka the real main event, aka the Rogue Soldier, and today you're about to learn firsthand just what it's like to be caught in the crossfire. But above all else, prepare yourself, because in this very moment, today, right now, you are about to be caught in conversation. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 48 of Caught in Conversation. We've got all of the wrestles today. Finally got a chance to sit down and watch a couple of DMDU shows. They're actually dropping Not Here to Fuck Spiders 2 this week, so hopefully I can catch up on some more shows in the coming weeks because they're constantly putting out banger after banger, and I hate being behind because they're such a good product and they deserve all the promotion that they can get. I'll be running through the results from those couple of shows that I watched, as well as just some quick thoughts on some of the matches, dare I say highlights on some of the matches, as well as doing a full review, recap, or recap-ish, as I like to say here on the podcast, of Impact's Rebellion 2022 pay-per-view. As always, if you've already read the description or the thumbnail, you'll be aware of that. But before we get to any of that, just this morning, as I record this, it's actually 2 a.m. on Saturday night, I guess Sunday morning now, but on Saturday morning, WWE announced that they have released more talents from NXT. There was a nice little handful, but most of them were just rookies, and there was a referee in there that she was a really good referee, so I don't know why they let her go. But anyway, I'm just going to talk about some of like the ones that I thought were notable, because some of them, they're really major players within the current landscape of NXT 2.0. The notable names that I put down were Malcolm Nivens, Dexter Lumis, Dakota Kai, Persia Pirotta, and Harland, aka Parker Bordeaux. Now, in the case of Malcolm Nivens, apparently, according to rumors, reports, however you look at it, he had actually already signed an extension, but there were no plans of him re-signing even further, and apparently Dakota Kai had also let officials know that once her contract was up, she would not be re-signing once it had expired. So that makes sense, to a point, to release them early if it is genuinely a budget cuts reason. And to an extent, like as BS as that excuse can be at times, it can also be true at times. So it makes sense because, then you've only got to pay them out for their 30-day non-compete clause rather than the rest of their contract. But on the other hand, and I haven't had a chance to look into it, but what if their contracts were up sooner than later? Like, would that mean that they'd be kept out of competition longer because of the 30 days non-complete? Like, I'm not sure if that's relevant here with these two, but that's just something that, as I was thinking about this, it crossed my mind. And obviously, that would then go against the budget cuts because you'd be paying them, in theory, for an extra 30 days. So I'm not a businessman, probably making myself sound like an absolute dumbass here, but for some reason, that thought crossed my mind that I was like, wait, what if, like, say their contracts were up next week, but then they've been released, rather than wait for 7, do they then have to wait for 30 to be able to compete? I don't know, but it is what it is. Dexter Lumis, he was a shocking one for me as well, as part of Index with Indy Hartwell, he actually carried NXT in the latter half of the Black and Gold stuff, and was currently in a core storyline still with Indy, and then Persia Pirotta and Duke Hudson. I mean, I probably shouldn't be shocked, after the amount of times that people have been let go smack bang in the middle of the stories, or the amount of times that stories have just been dropped, for no reason. But it always gets me, like, why do you put in the effort and then basically just pull the plug and, in effect, shit all over anything that had happened in the story to that point? Persia Pirotta, aka Steph DeLander here in Australia, this one genuinely hurts, both as a fan and someone that just appreciates the business and, wants to get into the more business side of the business, because she has all the makings of a star, in my opinion. She looks like a star. She has the benefit of being taller than most of her opponents. She has the strength and ability. Her facial expressions and her timing for just the littlest of nuanced things are always on point. And maybe I'm biased because she is a fellow Aussie, but I just feel that she's someone that you'd want to build your NXT women's division around, or even your main roster, women's division around. Like, she has all the makings for a badass, powerful, badass, I should say. I don't know why I went American when I said that, but a badass, powerful, dominant heel champion. And then you look at her and Indy as a tag team, whether they're faces or heels, could easily be the faces of the tag team division on either, again, NXT or the main roster. I just don't get it. Like, selfishly, I'd love to see her come back to Australia and just kill it once again in PWA and hell all over the country, but I wish her nothing but the best in all of her, future endeavors, much like, unfortunately, WWE has as well. And then there's Haaland, and honestly, from a fan perspective, this one hurt me probably the most. I really loved the character that he was portraying, and the pairing of him and Joe Gacy, it did something for me, especially with Joe Gacy actually challenging for the NXT Championship in this coming week on NXT as I record this. Like, I feel like you could have done like a Triple H Batista thing where Haaland was the protector of the championship until he was ready to break out on his own. And then, after about a year or so of helping Gacy retain the title, he turns on Gacy, breaks out, wins the title himself. But that's just my opinion, I guess. The song of the week this week is This Is Your Sign by Citizen Soldier. This is the title track to their last two albums, This Is Your Sign Parts 1 and 2 respectively. Just like the rest of all their songs, it's an absolute banger, and the lyrics are fantastic. They're really on point, as the kids say. They fit very well with the rest of their Fight the Good Fight project. Once again, that song is This Is Your Sign by Citizen Soldier. Remember, as I always say, it's not weak to speak. It is okay to not be okay. But now I'll get into the wrestles. As I said, I'm going to run through the results, just some quick notes of Deathmatch Down Under's Malice at the Palais and how I spent my summer vacation respectively. That took place about a month or so ago as I record this, and we'll start with Malice just because I'll go in chronological order. Match 1. Vixen defeated Mad Dog via pinfall in a no-rope barbed wire deathmatch. Freaking awesome way to kick off the show. Both competitors here, two of the very best in the country, and dare I say the world when it comes to deathmatch wrestling. Popped very hard at Mad Dog, hitting a version of a discus punch or a discus forearm with barbed wire wrapped around his arm. I bet Diamond Dallas Page or Razor Ramon never considered doing that. I'm still waiting on Vixen versus Joel Bateman in that same stipulation, though. That's a match that's been, unfortunately, put off a few times now due to multiple reasons, and I can't wait for that to eventually happen. Match number 2, Misspent Youth defeated the Black Roach Reserve via pinfall. Match number 3, we had Tom Barrett versus Terry Shaw. It ended in a no contest due to the interference from the Snuff King Gore. And I've said it multiple times here on the pod, and I'll say it again, and I'm probably going to keep saying it. I'm very happy for Tom and all of his success in the last few months. The amount of years upon years of hard work that he's put in, finally paying off. Selfishly, I would have liked this match to go just a little bit longer before the interference, but it is what it is. Gore then goes on to call out Chanel Phoenix. And then we have match number 4, Chanel accepting the challenge, and this also ends in a no contest due to a double countout. Gore hit referee Texas Pete with a Dominator and took out all members of the DMDU roster basically before we got a pull-up brawl between Gore and Chanel Phoenix. Match number 5, we had a sudden death scramble. We had Charlie Rose versus Jordan Sampson versus Mike Chaos versus Ryan Rapid versus Rochelle Rogue versus Kid Valiant. All the flips and tricks in this one in true scramble fashion. Everyone looks strong though. Everyone got some shine, brother. Your winner was Ryan Rapid. And then match number 6, we had Shazza McKenzie defeating JXT via pinfall in a rematch from Roll On after JXT had cheated to beat Shazza. But then JXT attacked Shazza after the match and delivered a pedigree on a chair. This was actually the match that JXT suffered an injury in at the very beginning. I believe it was a hamstring tear. But regardless, he has healed at this point because it was a few weeks back now as I record this, as I said. Match number 7, we had the anti-deathmatch party. They defeated BDE and Callan Butcher in a 4-on-3 handicap match after Lockie Hendricks actually pinned the Australian Deathmatch champion himself in Callan Butcher. It was actually meant to be an 8-person tag, but ADMP took out Atlas Whitaker before the bell could ring. Lockie Hendricks has also put an ADMP sticker over the Australian Deathmatch Championship, which he had stole at the show prior. Match number 8, we had a Surf City Deathmatch. We had Will Walker defeating Joel Bateman via submission. Huge statement made by Will Walker in DMDU. He's had a lot of great performances, but up until this point, had never been able to really get the win in the big one, if you will. Some of the spots in this were absolutely bonkers, as I'm sure most people were expecting. But yeah, Will Walker made Joel Bateman tap out, and this was just before Joel went over to the US, and as many know by this point, Joel did win the ICW American Deathmatch Championship. Unfortunately, he did drop it to Eric Ryan just over or just under 24 hours later, but fantastic showing by Joel over in the US. I thoroughly enjoyed his match that he had at H2O against Matt Tremont. That was fucking amazing. But match number 9 / the main event for Malice at the Palais. We had Royce Chambers retaining the DMDU Heavyweight Championship against the Eternal Edward Dusk in a great matchup. Chambers has been studying his original ECW tapes, it seems, with a moonsault off the balcony that was fucking insane. He also did a shooting star elbow drop, which was pretty cool. Again, all the flippy shit, but I dug the absolute hell out of it. Very good show all around. The results from how I spent my summer vacation were: match 1, Misspent Youth retain the DMDU Tag Team Championships against the Velocities after Aisha, with some sneaky shenanigans, uses one of the titles as a weapon behind the referee's back, followed with a beautiful yeet kick crucifix driver combo, or a crucifix bomb if you want to call it that. Match number 2, Broderick Valentine defeated JXT. Some excellent heel work from JXT, and Valentine showed some great babyface fire as well. The crazy fall he took at Roll On, as scary as it was and as dangerous as it was, has actually kind of helped him gain some momentum and helped catapult him, and it's just great to see that he's bounced back from that. Valentine was actually attacked as well after the match by a big mystery masked man. Match number 3, we had Chanel Phoenix defeating Jordan Sampson via submission in a great heavyweight clash. Both competitors had the MMA style, which I loved. Match number 4, the ADMP, represented here by Katie Lux and Lockie Hendricks, defeated Vixen and Darcy Moss after interference from the rest of the ADMP in Hector Jones and Mitchell Wright. I absolutely loved Andy Coyne on commentary, just losing his shit constantly at the ADMP. The deathmatch wrestlers, led by current deathmatch champion Callum Butcher, came out and brawled all around the building with the ADMP, but ADMP tucked their tails and hightail it out of the building. Despite the fact that ADMP do have the physical championship belt, Callum Butcher announces that the title will still be on the line in the main event later on. Match number 5, we have another sudden death scramble, true DMDU fashion. They usually have one every show, which is great because it gets some young talents on the card. But we had Charlie Rose versus Levi Nixon versus Xavier Black versus Rochelle Rogue versus Jake Wilder versus Emin the Kid. The winner was Emin the Kid. Once again, typical modern wrestling scramble, very go, 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 Power Rangers. That's the ADHD kicking in, my bad. But everyone got some shine and they looked strong, brother. DMDU does a fantastic job on these scrambles. You know, they kind of let the competitors do their own thing while also making sure that everyone, you know, does still get their chance to have their own moment. Match number 6, we had Delta defeating Edward Dusk via DQ. This may have been my favourite match of the whole night for this card. Both competitors, you know, really got their characters over. Delta told a great story as an underdog fighting through injury after Dusk had worked on her knee for the duration of the match, before Dusk would go on to get himself disqualified by smashing Delta's knee with a chair. Edward Dusk is put over by a lot of people in Australia as being one of the hidden gems of Australia, so to speak, and for very good reason. Delta, for her experience level as well, she is absolutely fantastic. She will be a big star in a few years, I have no doubt about that. And Dusk leaves his markings, literally leaves his mark on Delta after the match with some sort of black tar-like substance. Match number 7, we have Matt Hayter defeating Kid Valiant to retain the Riot City Wrestling Championship. Some cross-promotion here, I love it. everyone works better when they work together, in my opinion. But Royce Chambers, who was on commentary for this match, pushed Kid Valiant off the top rope, shades of Kid Valiant's pinning Chambers due to Edward Dusk pushing Chambers off the top rope a few events before this one. That was a mouthful. Chambers was great on commentary before this happened, by the way, and Andy and Aaron have been absolute stitches in this match specifically for all of their banter. Like, they've always got good banter, but the banter in this match, like, Andy randomly talking about how he thinks that Emma Wiggle was hot, I was like, what the fuck? Kid Valiant does call Royce Chambers out after all of this. He says that not here to fuck spiders too, or not here to fuck spiders. He wants a shot at the DMDU Heavyweight Championship. Royce Chambers seemingly accepted, and spoiler alert, that match has since happened, and that's why I want to catch up on all of these shows, because there's lots of bangers. There's also a Kid Valiant versus Robbie Eagles match that I really need to catch up on. But match number 8, Callum Butcher retains the DMDU Australian Deathmatch Championship against Will Walker and Mad Dog in a triple threat deathmatch with a shark cage in the corner, because why the fuck not? The match started with Will Walker hitting a moonsault off the shark cage to both Mad Dog and Butcher. Walker DDT'd Mad Dog off the apron through a pane of glass, which was just fucking insane. And no matter how many times I see it, I still cringe every time Callum Butcher bites his way through the light tubes. Will Walker actually locked Mad Dog inside the cage to make it one-on-one between himself and Callum Butcher, which I thought was absolutely genius. You could argue that, he also cost himself the match by doing that as well, because Mad Dog could do nothing but watch on as Callum would subsequently go on to hit the Executioner's elbow and get the win to retain the title. I loved the show of respect after the fact as well. Callum Butcher actually helped Mad Dog out of the cage and then pointed out to Will Walker that his actions were dirty. And then we had excellent promos from all three competitors after the match, with Callum Butcher calling out Alex Colon to cap it all off. And once again, I really need to catch up, because I've heard nothing but good things about the death match that those guys had at Not Here to fuck spiders. Yet another good DMDU show all around though. Like, they haven't put on a show yet that I haven't enjoyed, and I really hope that never ever happens, because you got a great crew behind it. You've got a great roster, in front of house, I guess, for lack of a better term, but constant great stuff by DMDU. I can never toot their horn enough. And that will bring me, though, to my match of the week for this week. It will actually be that match that I was just talking about, and that's Callum Butcher versus Will Walker versus Mad Dog at DMDU How I Spent My Summer Vacation. This is actually only the third time, I think, that a current match has been the match of the week. I usually try and kind of find other matches elsewhere that just relate to what I'm talking about, but this is honestly one of my favorite death matches in DMDU so far. Like, even with everyone bleeding, it still wasn't the craziest from a gore or a shock factor standpoint, but all three guys constantly involved, unlike most multi-person matches where, people kind of lay out for a minute or two. Mad Dog doing a Boston Crab on top of the fucking shark cage still pops the shit out of me just thinking about it. But yeah, 100%. Even if you're not a deathmatch fan, I feel like you would enjoy this, taste of deathmatch. But yeah, again, that match is Callum Butcher versus Will Walker versus Mad Dog at DMDU How I Spent My Summer Vacation. You can actually watch this on IWTV. If you don't have a subscription already, you can use code DMDU and you'll get 5 days free. And also just go check out DMDU's YouTube page. They have a couple of matches on there for free. So, maybe if you just want to see what it's all about, go check those out as well. But now for my full match-by-match breakdown review or recap-ish of Impact Wrestling's Rebellion 2022 pay-per-view. This is actually my first time watching Impact since the Hard to Kill pay-per-view back in January. As I have documented a few months back, I had actually cancelled my Impact Plus subscription due to how buggy their app is, and honestly, the customer service team behind the app can be a little bit rude at times, but I still try my best to support Impact as a company, as a whole, and I will continue to buy the actual pay-per-views and still keep up, most weeks and see what's going on. They're still very much one of my favourite products, and they've got some amazing talent in the ring. We have Matthew Raywalt and Tom Hannafin on commentary, of course, formerly Aiden English and Tom Phillips, respectively. They've been paired for a couple of months now, but this was my first time hearing them properly without just watching highlight clips, and spoiler alert, they do a damn good job together. But on the pre-show, match number 1, we had a singles match. We had Eddie Edwards versus Chris Bay. Eddie Edwards actually turned heel a few weeks back, maybe about a month ago as I record this, turned his back on Impact Wrestling, and he joined Honor No More, of course, the wrestlers that jumped ship from Ring of Honor to Impact back at Hard to Kill. Eddie actually has a bit of a solid history himself in Ring of Honor in his own right, and I believe at the multiverse of matches, I almost said multiverse of madness, which is obviously the reference that they were going for, but the multiverse of matches, he actually represented Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan in the match that he had. But this comes about because Honor No More and the Bullet Club, which Chris Bay is a part of here, have been having kind of gang warfare, so to speak. Eddie Edwards has a new theme song, new wrestling attire, both of which I thought were freaking awesome. Bullet Club, for the most part, despite their feud with Honor No More, are still mostly presented as a heel group, but Chris Bay, very much the babyface here in this match with Eddie Edwards. The fans constantly letting Bay know how much they appreciate him. Bay hit an awesome counter out of a Tiger Bomb into a Snap Rana, but eventually Eddie Edwards would hit the Tiger Bomb and follow up with a Brainbuster for the win. Match number 2 on the pre-show, we had the Impact Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. We had the Inspiration, Jessie McKay and Cassie Lee, the challengers, versus the Influence of Tennille Dashwood and Madison Rayne, the champions. The Inspiration were actually getting their rematch here after they lost the titles to the Influence last month at the monthly Impact Plus special. That one was actually Sacrifice 2022. 3 of the 4 competitors in this match are actually Australian, which is kind of cool. You've obviously got both members of the Inspiration and then Tennille Dashwood of the Influence. It's kind of crazy when you think back to about 2013-ish that Tennille herself, along with Buddy Murphy / Matthews, then Matt Silver, they were really the ones that they helped make it possible for Aussies to kind of make it, if you want to use that term. So that's pretty awesome. The match was jump-started and the Inspiration quickly took control. Jessie McKay specifically came in like a house on fire, being the shiner of the two, which is good to see because for the most part I feel like, when they were in WWE, it was usually Cassie Lee as Peyton Royce, kind of getting the shine. And even in some of the matches they've had in Impact, it's been Cassie Lee that's got most of the shine. So it's really cool to see Jessie McKay kind of, get her moment here. Cassie Lee did kick out of Tennille, spotlight kick finisher though, which was a bit given that, it is only the pre-show and I get looking strong, but it just seemed a little bit unnecessary to me. And I always harp on this, and I know I'm not a grizzled old vet, but kicking out of a finisher just for like a pop or, for a big moment, it's just like, surely you can be a little bit more creative than that, no? Just me. I'll move on. The Influence eventually hit their double team finisher, which they call the Collab, and they retain the Impact Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. The Inspiration, just this week, as I record this, have just announced that they will be stepping away from wrestling altogether indefinitely. I wish them nothing but the best for both of them in whatever it is they're doing, and I hope to see them back in the ring sooner than later. It's actually just announced that Jessie McKay is actually starring in a movie. I actually saw that just before I started recording. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but yeah, that's pretty cool. And I believe that Cassie Lee is also potentially looking into getting into some acting as well. So, wish them both the best of luck with all of that and anything else they might do outside of the ring. But I do truly hope that I get to see them back in the ring sooner than later, because both of them are fantastic performers, fantastic wrestlers, fantastic entertainers. Call them what you want. They get the job done. But over on the main card, we had a fantastic opening video package, did a great job of hyping up all of the core components in terms of the competitors on the card, and match number 1 was a triple threat match. It was Switchblade Jay White versus Steve Macklin versus Chris Sabin. I'm still not the biggest fan in the world of Switchblade, and I probably honestly never will be. It's nothing against him, he's super talented, but there's just something that it rubs me the wrong way, and maybe that's just his character, and maybe he's doing a great job as a heel, but I've never been one to cheer for him. But I digress. The story here is that Chris Sabin is the first man to pin Jay White in Impact Wrestling, and Aiden English or Matthew Raywald actually pointed out on commentary that it's actually the first time that Jay White has been pinned realistically, period, across his entire USA tour. So that's kind of cool. But specifically Impact Wrestling, 100% definitely the first person to pin Jay White since he's been there. And then basically after the match where Chris Sabin did beat Jay White, Steve Macklin would attack the both of them. So, they've all kind of got gripes with each other, which is good. Steve Macklin has a bit of a Punisher type thing going on, and that's the vibe that I've been getting from him from the very beginning of his Impact run, but now he's actually got a Punisher-esque logo on both his face paint and his jacket, respectively. And this was apparently Chris Sabin's 69th, his 69th triple threat match of his career. They pointed out that he'd been in 68 triple threat matches before that, so I guess, quick math, starter math, that makes this his 69th, triple threat match. Or at least in Impact. They didn't make it clear whether it was his whole career or just Impact specifically, but it's in some form or fashion, this is his 69th, triple threat match. Chris Sabin basically plays human pinball here with both opponents to start off, creating space, hitting high-octane, fast-paced offense. All three guys really showing the everyman for themselves mentality with constant, tit-for-tat moves, almost video game-like, where, Sabin would hit Macklin, and then Macklin would hit Sabin, and then, one of the two would hit Jay White, and then vice versa, yada, yada, yada. But Steve Macklin took a very nasty spill to the outside, which genuinely made me scream, "Oh my God!" And Mrs. Crossfire was playing The Sims on her computer on the other side of the room, and she thought something was wrong, and I'm like, no, it's fine, it's just wrestling, as you were. And the fans actually chanted holy shit at that as well. Sabin got a very close near fall after countering Jay White's Blade Runner facebuster into a schoolboy, but then after some quick back and forth that was really smooth, by the way, Chris Sabin managed to hit the cradle shock on Jay White, but Steve Macklin swoops back in with a pin, pins Chris Sabin with a crucifix. Very well done. Great finish, great win for Steve Macklin. He is slowly starting to win me over now that he's got a little bit of a better character behind him. I thoroughly enjoyed the backstage segment after this as well. We had Josh Alexander, his family, and Scott D'Amore. Great way to hype up the main event between Alexander and the Impact World Champion Moose. Match number 2, we had the AAA Reina de Reinas Championship. We had Taya Valkyrie, the challenger, versus Deonna Purrazzo, the champion. This is actually Taya's first match back in Impact after just over a year away, of course. She did have a brief stint in WWE on the NXT brand under the name Frankie Monet. Taya's last match in Impact, however, was actually a loss to Deonna Purrazzo when Deonna was then the Impact Knockouts champion. Deonna, of course, currently the champ, holding both the Ring of Honor Women's and AAA Reina de Reinas Championship, which the latter of, as I said, is on the line here. Mrs. Crossfire did seem very happy to see Taya back here in Impact. Both women, both competitors, both wrestlers at the top of their respective games, very evenly matched. Deonna gave Taya a Russian leg sweep on the apron, which looked really devastating in real time. They exchanged a couple of different submission holds, but in the end, it was Taya overpowering Deonna. She hit the Road to Valhalla, which is her, chicken wing facebuster, a la the Glamazon Beth Phoenix with the Glam Slam, which Taya has been very well known for, very successful with in her own right, and Taya is crowned the new AAA Reina de Reinas champion. Deonna Purrazzo is the champ, no more. We then cut to a backstage interview with the current Impact Knockouts champion, Tasha Steelz. She is hyping up her title defense against Rosemary later on. Tasha was actually cosplaying as Scar from The Lion King, which is kind of cool. Match number 3, we had a triple threat match for the Impact X Division Championship. We had Ace Austin, the challenger, versus Speedball Mark Bailey, the other challenger, versus Trey Miguel, the champion. I loved the video package they had to hype this one up. Basically, Ace Austin and Mark Bailey had been kind of teasing a semi-alliance as the weeks led up to this, but eventually Mark Bailey would take out Ace Austin, showing that at the pay-per-view it would indeed be every man for themselves, and it would be one-on-one. Trey had a really dope Spider-Man Future Foundation-inspired gear as well. Ace Austin runs his mouth, and the match then starts with Trey Miguel and Speedball Mark Bailey playing ping-pong with Ace Austin. The alliance quickly goes out the window though when Speedball does try for a sneaky pin on Trey, and then the everyman for themselves truly kicks in. The fans really appreciating all three guys' abilities here, but Mike Bailey seemingly was the fan favourite of the three. All the flips and tricks in this X Division style matchup. Mike Bailey actually ran up Trey Miguel's chest to deliver a top rope German suplex on Ace Austin, which was pretty dope. Trey Miguel almost had Mike Bailey beat after hitting the diving meteora that he calls Fresh Prince of Midair, but Ace Austin pulled the referee out of the ring. He hits Trey Miguel with his trademark running blockbuster finisher, the Fold, and Ace Austin has become the new Impact X Division champion. Bit of poetic justice here for Ace Austin actually, as this is now his third reign with the X Division title, and at the last two Rebellion pay-per-views respectively, both his previous two reigns came to an end. So Ace kind of rights the wrong here, so to speak. We get a backstage promo from Honor No More. We then got a video package saying that someone is coming, and I tried really hard to decipher who or what this was about, and for the life of me, I couldn't and still can't work out who or what it is, but looking forward to seeing what the reveal will be there. I'm hoping that they can stretch it at least until Slammiversary, because it's 2 months away, that's the next pay-per-view. Be cool. Match number 4. We have a singles match. We got Jonah versus Tomohiro Ishii. Holy freaking shit. Talk about a hoss fight, slugfest, heavyweight collision, etc., etc., etc. This is all of that wrapped into one. It was basically what you'd expect from both competitors. Both guys, for the most part, exchanging very strong style forearms. Ishii tried to get Jonah up for the brainbuster, but Jonah was just too big, too powerful, fought him off with absolute ease. He'd attempt it for a second time later on, actually lifting Jonah off his feet this time, but Jonah once again powers out. Ishii did manage to get Jonah down, however, with a big snap German suplex, and then got a near fall with a lariat. Ishii kicked out of the Jonah bomb and then moved out of the way of Tsunami, but then it was Jonah's turn to kick out because he kicked out of a big basement lariat from Ishii. All the lariats in this match. Finally, the third time was the charm for Ishii, and he managed to muscle Jonah up, hit the brainbuster, and he got the 1-2-3, gets the win here. Match number 5, we had the Impact World Tag Team Championships 8-team elimination challenge. So basically this was a tag team match with gauntlet rules. So essentially it's a tag team turmoil match, as it's commonly referred to. 2 teams start, another team enters when one is eliminated. So basically, in a kayfabe sense, it's luck of the draw. Violent by Designs were the defending champions in this. 5 teams had been announced, with 3 mystery teams being announced during the actual match itself. The first up, we had the major players, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers with Chelsea Green, versus Jordan Grace and W. Morrissey. So that's 2 of the 3 mystery teams straight off the bat. And I get from a storyline aspect why they had Grace and Morrissey as a team. The major players, they'd been giving Morrissey hell the last few weeks since Morrissey turned face. Morrissey's been working babyface since his feud with Moose. And then Jordan Grace actually was the person that Matt Cardona defeated to win the Impact Digital Media Championship. And that's where Cardona finally turned heel in Impact, was beating Jordan Grace for that title. But it didn't do anything for me. It just felt like a very cheap way, to be honest, to get them on the card. And they were eliminated very quickly as well when Cardona would use Jordan Grace's tights for leverage. Morrissey and Grace clean house after they were eliminated. Morrissey actually powerbombed Chelsea Green through the timekeeper's table. He took very good care of her on that bump though. But yeah, they get quickly eliminated and then just destroy the major players basically. And then the third team to enter was the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. They very quickly eliminate the major players who were still reeling from the attack by Jordan Grace and W. Morrissey. Team number 4 was Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice, who were also quickly eliminated by the Good Brothers after the Good Brothers hit the Magic Killer on Zicky Dice due to some miscommunication between Dice and Swinger. They were actually the third mystery team here, so all 3 teams that were yet to be revealed have been revealed, and they're all out of the match. Team number 5 was Rich Swann and Willie Mack. They quickly took it to the Good Brothers with stereo dives over the top rope to the floor. These 2 teams have always had really great chemistry with each other. There was lots of near falls from both sides, most of which were actually believable for the most part, which is the important part. After Gallows takes out Rich Swann on the floor, they pin Willie Mack with what was now the third Magic Killer throughout the gauntlet. Team number 6 was Honor No More, which was being represented by Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. Matt Taven. They had a nice little fake out, which I absolutely loved. Basically, they had Vincent and Kenny King standing on the ramp, acting as if they'd taken Taven and Bennett's place, which everyone's like, wait, what's going on? But, technically, in a kayfabe sense, it'd be legal. It's just 2 members of Honor No More represented in the match, but psych, Taven and Bennett attack the Good Brothers from behind, and after some quick shenanigans, Honor No More quickly advances into the tag team turmoil of the 8-team elimination challenge. Team number 7 was Heath and Rhino, essentially a stalemate now because we have basically 2 fresh teams. Rhino goes on to hit the Gore after some back and forth and eliminates Honor No More. The final team is the current champions, Violet by Design, represented here by Eric Young and Joe Doring, with Cody Deaner, or just Deaner, at ringside. Luck of the draw here for the champions in a kayfabe sense, and there's lots of bad blood here between Violent by Design and Heath Slater and Rhino, or Heath and Rhino as well. So I appreciate how they kind of told that story and let that play out of having them be the final 2 teams. Heath came really close to pinning Eric Young, but Deaner would place Young's foot on the rope, and after Heath attempted his finisher for a second time, Eric Young would counter it into a pile driver to retain the Impact World Tag Team Championships. So lots of moving parts in that. Very, very much enjoyed the 8-team elimination challenge, the tag team gauntlet, tag team turmoil, call it what you want. I did enjoy it, but yeah, it was just kind of odd that we had Grace and Morrissey as a team, but it is what it is. As I said, pretty good match. Really enjoyed it. Match number 6, we had the Impact Knockouts World Championship. We had Rosemary, the challenger, with Jessica Havoc, versus Tasha Steelz, the champion, with Savannah Evans. Rosemary jump-started this match as soon as the bell rung, which is a bit odd seeing as how she's the babyface in the situation, but I guess it makes sense given her, her whole demon assassin gimmick. Tasha Steelz actually provoked Havoc, and the referee ejected Havoc, leaving Rosemary at a numbers disadvantage with Tasha Steelz' bodyguard, Savannah Evans, still lurking at ringside. I really loved that. Beautifully done there. Kind of, having to, overcome the odds in a sense. Obviously, behind the referee's back, because then the manager or bodyguard would be ejected also, or a DQ. But then in saying that, a DQ, means the title doesn't change hand. That's a rant, but Rosemary eventually evens the odds. She gets the green mist in the eyes of Savannah Evans, and she hits her trademark spear on Tasha, but only gets a near fall. Again, finishing kickouts, but is what it is. Eventually, though, Tasha Steelz would hit a springboard cutter while Rosemary was on the top rope, followed by a Falcon Arrow to retain the Knockouts title. Tasha Steelz has really come into her own as a competitor, and she's only going to get better and better, but I really enjoyed this match. Very good match. Rosemary very much, helping carry Tasha Steelz to a good match, but Tasha Steelz definitely held her own. And they then showed the actual ad for the next pay-per-view, which, as I mentioned just before, is Slammiversary. They're actually returning home to Nashville, Tennessee, which is where it all started for Impact Wrestling. This is their 20th anniversary, which is just awesome to see. They've been the punchline to many, many jokes over the years within professional wrestling, but it's great to see that they're still killing it. I'll most likely probably do a review of that when it rolls around too. As I said, I'm going to continue to keep buying the actual proper pay-per-views for Impact, and it's Slammiversary, it's the big one. 20 years of Impact. Hashtag Impact 20. It's pretty huge. Congratulations to Impact on all your success over the years, and I hope there's 20 years more. Just give me all the wrestling. But match number 7 / the main event, the Impact World Championship. We had Josh Alexander, the challenger, versus Moose, the champion. Moose. Yes, I'm a fucking mark. Sue me. The story of this match is 6 months in the making. Long-term storytelling, y'all. Love it. It all started back at Bound for Glory in October of last year, 2021, which I actually did cover here on the podcast as well. Moose would defeat Josh Alexander there for the Impact World Championship just moments after Alexander had defeated Christian Cage to win the title. They said on commentary it was 2 minutes and however many seconds that Josh Alexander had that title before Moose was crowned the new champion. So it's like, yeah, okay, he deserves a rematch there. But then Moose makes it personal by getting Alexander's family involved, and then Alexander on top of that has to then jump through hoops to finally get his hands on Moose and a rematch for the championship. Josh Alexander was kayfabe suspended and then was out longer than expected due to the fact that his visa had to be renewed. So in a way, real life, again, kind of helped benefit the storyline. Like, he was already jumping through all these hoops and stuff in kayfabe, and then in real life, he gets stuck in Canada. That sounded really bad saying like that. Stuck in Canada. I'm sure the people in Canada are nice, but I actually have a Canadian friend who I've never met in person, but shout out to Sean. He listens to the pod, messages about wrestling like every other day. The time zone still confuses the fuck out of me, but Josh Alexander was stuck in Canada, so he had to wait even longer to get his rematch. But here we are. I absolutely loved the way that this whole match was built, though. Basically, Alexander, as a man on a personal level, he just wanted to rip Moose to shreds, but it was actually his wife earlier in the night that reminded him that no, as a competitor, take the championship. The championship is what you've worked for, and that's where you're going to hurt Moose the most by taking it. So the match actually starts nice and slow. They kind of feel each other out. Alexander kind of, just riding the wave, going through the motions. But then Moose gets in the face of Alexander's wife and son at ringside, and that then flips the switch again for Josh Alexander, and he just goes straight at Moose, but Moose is able to kind of overcome the emotion and take advantage. Moose gave Alexander a pretty decent beatdown before Alexander finally got an opening, but once again, the switch flipped once he started hitting Moose. He just couldn't stop. He almost got himself disqualified, but he just managed to regain his composure when the referee talked him down. Alexander gave Moose like 10 or 11 German suplexes all up, and about 8 or 9 of those were in a row. We had a nice little suplex city chant there, which I always appreciate. It's a thing now. But Moose almost tapped out the Josh Alexander's trademark ankle lock, but just managed to get to the rope. They had a nice chop exchange, which is constantly back and forth, back and forth. Some of those were really fucking loud as well, but all they did was just fire each other up. I love the touch where Alexander got so mad that he took off his protective headgear and just threw it at Moose before he delivered the underhook pile driver. Moose actually managed to get his foot on the ropes for that, which I like that because he's the heel. He's still kicking out of the Challengers Championship because he's the champion, but it was desperation. He just managed to get out of it. But the story there where Alexander's head and neck have been an issue. He broke his neck in the past. He almost lost his career, but he gets so fired up that he didn't care. He was here to fight, essentially. Josh Alexander actually countered Moose's spear into a Styles clash, which popped the hell out of me. Of course, AJ Styles, one of the all-time great Impact World Champions, and selfishly, as a mark, he is in my top 5 all-time favorites, is AJ Styles. But Moose sent Alexander neck first into an exposed turnbuckle, hits the spear, but Alexander just kicks out, apparently being the first person to ever kick out a Moose's spear, according to commentary. I can't remember off the top of my head if that is true or not, but I do think that is actually true. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that has kicked out a Moose's spear, but he's definitely the first person in Impact, I believe, at least, to have kicked out a Moose's spear. And this is why I get mad when people do finisher kickouts just for the sake of a pop or the sake of a big moment, as I mentioned before in the pre-show. It's like the story here was perfect. That like Josh Alexander, he's gone through all these hoops. Moose has made it personal, and he's digging down and he's fighting, and it's wrestling. It's fucking beautiful. But Moose hit a buckle bomb on the injured neck of Alexander, and even if there was no underlying issue, the way that Alexander bounced off the top turnbuckle off the powerbomb, it looked nasty. It was a fucking nasty bump. But Alexander would counter a second spear attempt, and after a second underhook pile driver, Josh Alexander is the new Impact Wrestling Champion. The boyhood dream has come true. for Shawn Michaels. Josh Alexander. Alexander celebrates in the ring with his family as the crowd chants, "You deserve it." Great ending to what was a pretty solid show all around. I'll be honest, I enjoyed both the DMDU shows more than this, but I'm just biased because they're fucking awesome and I love everyone there. But very excellent showing there for Impact Wrestling. Great pay-per-view, well worth the money. And it will be interesting to see where Impact goes from here, who Alexander's first feud, post-Moose will be, because Alexander defeated Moose in a rematch on this week's episode of Impact. So it'll be interesting to see, who's it going to be? What's going to happen? Who's the mystery person that they teased in the promos? Yeah. But that will bring me to a close for this week's episode. As I said, we had all the wrestling, got through it way quicker than I was expecting, but thank you guys as always for listening. Please check out the link tree in the description for all my social media and merch. I have just started a YouTube channel for the podcast where I will be posting clips from here on the pod and YouTube exclusive content such as bonus episodes. Hashtag Caught in the Exclusives. It's a working title. It's probably what it's going to be. But yeah, the song of the week was This Is Your Sign by Citizen Soldier. The match of the week was Callan Butcher versus Will Walker versus Mad Dog. How I spent my summer vacation. I am the essential John L. Crossfire. And you were just caught in conversation. Ciao.